What's up, cats? Today I'll be talking about the guitar, and most importantly, the distortion pedal. And that's just the distortion pedal. While the guitar sees more use in modern big band writing than any other time in history, it is still extremely underutilized, mainly being used to comp, add color, or solo. If you listen to a lot of big band music like I do, tell me, when was the last time you heard guitar not doing one of these things? With its FX pedals, the guitar has the widest timbre variety out of any instrument in the band, yet all most composers ask for it to do is... Also, there's another instrument in the band that does basically the exact same thing, but without all the cool pedals. Why have both try to occupy the same role? This is this, and that is that. Asking both the comp at the same time is usually redundant, as most of the time one will just lay out to let the other comp. The exception is where guitar comping is more rhythmic and single note based than harmonic, such as gospel or funk, or if it's a Count Basie-esque chart and you want them to do the Freddie Green thing. Otherwise, I like to use guitar as the comping instrument in lower intensity sections, and the piano as the comping instrument in higher intensity sections. Since I write a lot of very intense charts, my guitar parts tend to be much more melodic as opposed to harmonic, except if guitar comping is idiomatic of the genre. Here, I'll let piano be the horn player instead. Guitar is often treated as a horn player on charts where the focus is more on color, orchestration, and changing timbres, where the guitar is used primarily for the open, floaty sound it gives to charts in this vernacular. This is the main time composers will remember that guitar exists, before sentencing them to an entire chart of chopping wood. This is not to say that this approach does not work, but the guitar has so many more options. First, let's talk about the distortion pedal. I conceptualize distortion in 3 levels. Overdrive gives the guitar a warmer sound, and is most common in rock, blues, and jazz fusion. This is the lowest of the 3 levels, as it is the least altered sound out of the 3. You can use a bit of overdrive in pretty much any context, as while it does color the sound, it does not immediately announce its presence like either level of distortion does. You can think of it like how trumpet switches to flugelhorn. While it does change the sound a bit, it's not as obvious that the sound is changed as either level of distortion. Jazz distortion is a middle ground between overdrive and distortion, and I would say it's either on the high end of overdrive or the low end of distortion. While guitarists should be able to use context clues to figure out what level of distortion to use, it's always best to be as specific as possible, as the more unnecessary conversations you can skip, the better. Giving audio examples in the part is a good idea as well, as while you could ask a guitarist for the settings for the exact pedal sound you want, then put that in the part, that's a lot of reading, especially if there are multiple changes throughout the song. Also, different guitarists will use different pedal boards, so it's best just to give them an audio reference and let them figure out how to get there. For example, in my chart Flyfish, the guitar part at the beginning says Jazz Distortion, John Schofield, who uses this sound on certain tunes of his such as Big Fan. I actually use this sound the most in swing charts, as opposed to genres where distortion is more idiomatic. It gives the guitar a very unique color, without the massive jump in intensity that heavy distortion gives you. This sound is great for giving unison lines just a bit more edge, or for playing low-off sonatas with the rhythm section that aren't high energy. For the big moments, you'll want to switch to heavy metal distortion. This is the sound most commonly heard on metal songs.
Is this your power? You're like, tell people obvious guy.
But I believe it has a place in other genres as well. I mainly use this effect in conjunction with baritone and bass trombone in big moments of the chart, as it adds a ton of intensity to these sections. You could almost think of using this sound as the baritone and bass trombone rolled into one, as since the guitar can play multiple notes at once, it can double both the baritone and the bass trombone, no matter if they're playing fifths or octave unisons. The one caveat of using this sound is that no matter what, you will hear it, so you have to be very intentional with how it's used. Outside of metal, where you'll probably be using it for the entire chart, you want to treat it like the lead trumpet, as in overusing it can lessen its impact. Another pedal that offers a lot of unique colors is the delay pedal, which records the sound that was just played, plays it again, then slowly fades it out. You can think of it like a cave with a lot of echo, with the guitarist having direct control over how long the echo lasts. This sound is best used on lower intensity charts, where you can really let the wash of sounds from the delay pedal be the main focus. Unless you're a guitar player, I would recommend just giving the guitar player chords and telling them to use the delay pedal. While other pedals benefit from more specific parts, especially when you want them to line up with the rest of the band, for this one, what the guitars can come up with is probably way cooler than anything you could hope to write. Guitar is a transposing instrument, but the transposition is significantly easier to remember than any of the horns. This is because the guitar does not transpose keys, but instead transposes octaves. This is done because otherwise, the guitar would be reading almost entirely in ledger lines below the staff, making parts significantly harder to read. To keep parts for the instrument mainly centered in the treble clef, everything is written an octave up. Thanks to the compression pedal, and being an electric instrument, guitar plays with an even dynamic across its entire range, with the only difference being the timbre of the sound. It also doesn't have to worry about endurance at all. The low register sounds very thumpy, meaning the attack in this register won't be as clear as in the middle register. This register's sound is changed the most by the distortion pedal, changing the sound from a very calm, mellow sound to a very strong, biting sound. The middle range of the guitar is where you're going to want to write the majority of your parts. This is the most balanced range, as while the sound isn't as thick as it is in the lower register, it does have more attack. It's also the best range to give the guitar chords in, as the lower register is much more susceptible to lower interval limit violations. The high end of the guitar is what you should be using the least, as while it is extremely easy to play in this register due to how close all the notes are on the fretboard, they will all sound very shrill and thin. This isn't to say you can't use this register at all, especially when giving the guitar 8th note lines, but that amount of ledger lines is going to be a pain for pretty much anyone to read. Guitar doesn't have to worry about endurance at all. While the wrists might get tired if you were to give them some repeated figure like this, I don't really know why you would write this in the first place. Otherwise, you don't even have to worry about giving them spots to breathe, although I might recommend doing this anyways as it will make your music sound more human and less like you wrote it on a computer. Where guitarists might struggle is if you give them lines that contain a lot of force. As an example, let's look at Eddie Harris's Freedom Jazz Dance. While most of this lays on the guitar well, they have to be careful with the parts of the melody that contain 3 or more fourths, so here, 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 and here. This can be hard on guitar due to most of the strings being a fourth away from each other. So, in order to play a fourth, you have to press the string directly behind it on the exact same position on the fretboard. This isn't really a problem when it's just 1/4, as this is a move guitarists use quite frequently in order to play chords. However, once multiple fourths are involved, you have to do this move multiple times, which gets awkward very quickly. The 1/3 on the guitar helps this melody be a lot more achievable, but still takes careful planning, as you only reach the string with the third by starting on this F, as the others make you do 3 in a row. No matter what other position you play this melody in, this move is inescapable. Cluster chords are inaccessible for the same reason. 2-note clusters are technically always playable, but get more annoying the closer the notes are together. For example, here's all the ways you can play an E and an F together. Clearly, adding an A flat on top of this would be completely impossible, unless your fingers are like twice the length of a normal human's. One way you can sort of get around this is by giving the cluster to the piano, and then giving the guitar the 2 middle notes of the cluster. This works because it strengthens the inner voices of the chord, the notes you hear the least, adding color without being too noticeable. While notating chords for guitar to play usually won't turn out as badly as writing clusters, it's still very easy to write something unplayable. Outside of asking a guitarist if literally every single chord you wrote works, one easy way to bypass any issues with how chords lay on guitar is to just give the guitarist the top note of the chord, and tell them what chord to voice underneath it. This is also a good idea if you play a non-comping instrument, as once again, what the guitarist will come up with for voicing is probably way cooler than anything you can come up with. Also, while not something you can really account for in your writing, do keep in mind that just because a guitar player is a really great soloist, they aren't necessarily the best reader. It isn't an issue super often, since most charts are just chords, but for writers who like to give the guitar really important parts, finding a guitarist that can read as well as they play is very important, and for any guitarists looking for more work in the big band realm, I cannot recommend working on your reading chops enough. Just like every other instrument in the band, guitar works well with muted trumpet, although with an important distinction. For the most effective pairing, you're actually going to want to stick to a more clean sound, or slight modifications. This is because while the mute is used to lessen intensity, distortion is used to increase intensity, so you don't really want to use these two together, as they'll cancel each other out. The same logic applies to flugel, soprano, and guitar. The flugel and soprano are mainly paired together for their dark sound in the way they blend, so while adding guitar gives a unique color to this, distortion would completely destroy the intended effect. Where distortion does work really well is with the saxophone section. This is because the saxophone section is the best suited to playing lines firmly heard on a distorted guitar. These lines feature a lot of scales and arpeggios, and usually cover the entire range of the instrument. This makes saxophone the most obvious choice, as they're the only horn that doesn't have to worry about endurance at the top of their range, and also doesn't have to worry about hearing large jumps before they play them. Non-distorted guitar doubling lead alto is also a cool color to add on top of a harmonized sax solo, but unison sax solo with distortion guitar is probably one of my favorite combinations in the entire big band. Overall, please use guitar as more than just an instrument that can comp and play solos. It can do so much more. But if you do have a comp, just remember, it's better to only have one of the two comping at a time, as it removes a lot of the guesswork.